All right, so Andrew Tate has been charged with human trafficking, running in a criminal organization, and grape in Romania. It is official. He's going to trial. They are going to try to put him in jail, and that is what it is. Now, I want to talk about this case. I want to talk about the Matrix in general, or what he refers to as the Matrix. He predicted this was going to happen, and when I lay out to you exactly what he predicted, it makes perfect sense. He's a lot of things. Stupid ain't one of them, man. Stupid ain't one of them. I'm not, honestly, I'm not some Andrew Tate fanboy at all. There's a lot of things that he does that, now, basically, all of his opinions, I am almost aligned with all the time. His presentation, is not necessarily for me, but would I get along with him? Sure. But in terms of would I just blindly defend him? No, I wouldn't. But if I think he's being wrongfully accused of something, or if he's, the situation is woefully unjust, I certainly will. I would defend anybody if I thought that what they were facing was unjust. And if I don't have enough information to state what's unjust or not unjust, then I would just say that, which I probably will say somewhere through this video. But nonetheless, I'm going to give you guys the overview. I'm going to tell you what I think about this video, or this situation, and then I'm going to also talk about RFK and the Joe Rogan and Dr. Peter Hotez thing that's been going on. If you guys have been paying attention to that, I'm going to use this as an excuse to talk about that, because it's all connected. It's all connected, man. So that is what we're going to talk about. It's going to be just like Jesse on Everything. If you guys remember that channel before it was stolen away, just ripped away from me like a baby that was in my arms. This is going to be just like that. So if you missed the channel, welcome back. But yeah, before we get started, I want to say thank you guys for the continued support. If you haven't subscribed yet, I would appreciate it if you guys would do that if you're going to watch my content. I also want to say thank you to the nootropic drink that's running my brain on overdrive all the time now, which is the Benieve drink that Gabrielle and I distribute. The link's in the description if you guys want to try it. It is the bomb. Everybody who's tried it has loved it. And the sponsor of this video is Sheath Underwear, dude. Sheath Underwear. That's what I'm wearing right now. You wish you were wearing them if you're not. And this month we're giving away 2 Ridge. What? That's wrong. Ridge wallets. We're giving away actually 3. I'm going to give away 3. We're going to give away 3 Ridge wallets to anybody. Well, I'm going to give away 3. So if you go to sheathunderwear.com, you shop for any kind of underwear or merch or whatever you want from Sheath Underwear this month, you buy it, you send you have to use the promo code FIRE, and you'll save a bunch of money. And then you send the receipt to realjesseonfire@gmail.com, and you are entered to win one of the 3 Ridge wallets. I will tell you right now, I think I only have 2 entries. I only have 2 entries this month. So if you do it, I mean, your odds of winning are pretty good, because if only one person does it, you're 100% going to get one, because I only have 2 entries. So sheathunderwear.com, use the promo code FIRE when you buy your stuff. The more stuff you buy, the better your odds of winning, because each thing is an entry. And then use the promo code FIRE, send it to realjesseonfire@gmail.com. All right, so Andrew Tate has been charged with grape and human trafficking. All right, so let's just quickly go over this. His brother Tristan and 2 other associates face the charges. They've denied all allegations, and in March they were moved from custody to house arrest. The indictment deposited in Bucharest says the 4 defendants formed an organized crime group in 2021 to commit human trafficking in Romania, but also in other countries, including the U.S. and the U.K. in 2021. See, this is what's crazy about that, is these guys, when Andrew Tate and them did that, the emergency meeting or whatever, I don't know if you guys saw that. He was live on Rumble, and it had 450,000 concurrent viewers. And they said, that was the first I heard, that they were talking about all things that had happened in 2021. You're like, he was already famous and rich in 2021. Why on earth? Why would they form an organized crime group and start turning people out? That doesn't even make sense. You know what I mean? And that's what they said. They're like, yeah, it doesn't make sense. These charges don't make sense. So really quick, I wanted to quickly run through this part. So they said that it names 7 alleged victims who say they were recruited by the Tate brothers through false promises of love and marriage. The alleged victims were later taken to buildings in whatever county in Romania where they were intimidated, placed under constant surveillance and control, and forced into debt, according to a statement from Romanian prosecutors. The defendants allegedly then forced the women to take part in pornography, which was later shared on social media. One defendant is accused of graping a woman twice in March of 22. Wait a minute. One defendant of graping one girl? Okay. That is super sus, dude. That is super sus. So we're talking about, he supposedly was running this organization. He's got girls all over the place, right? He puts them in debt. So it makes it sound like he's literally like the Russian mafia, right? Where they get them addicted to drugs and they get them into debt and they're all, you got to work off your debt. And they assault those girls all the time. But in this case, you have one girl who was supposedly assaulted 2 times by one of the guys. That's sus, man. That makes the whole thing sus to me, to be honest. I mean, the whole thing is sus anyway. The media team says this is predictable and yada, yada, yada. Okay, anyway, bottom line is this. Here's what Andrew Tate said. He said he knew they were going to do this, and he knew because after they put him in jail for 6 months with no evidence and no charges, he's like, what were they going to do? Like, what were they going to do? Just drop the charges? They had no choice. And that's true. That's exactly right. What are they going to do? They just jailed the guy for 6 months. Of course they're going to charge him. They have to. Because ultimately what's going to happen is it's going to go to court, right? It's going to go to court. The trial's going to take a year, 2 years. And if he's exonerated, which I'm sure that well, actually, who knows? Depends on how corrupt the justice system is, right? Or, I mean, depends on how, how strong the case is. I highly doubt it's very strong unless, who knows, dude? I mean, honestly, who knows? Like, coming off of this story with Connor and this attorney, Ariel Mitchell, who offered one of Trey's songs. If you guys missed that, let me just go over that really quick. So the attorney for the woman who accused Conor McGregor of graping her in the bathroom after the Miami Heat game. Previous cases that this woman had taken were she had sued Chris Brown for the same thing, and then it turned out that the girl completely made it up, got caught red-handed, having fabricated the entire story. The girl got completely caught. They sued Chris Brown for $20 million, and the girl who was the accuser got stone, black and white, red-handed, caught, had made it up, okay? Another time, Trey Songz was the defendant. That was a made-up story also. And then the attorney, Ariel Mitchell, who was representing Connor's accuser, offered a witness who was going to exonerate Trey Songz $200,000 to lie and say that Trey Songz had also assaulted her. Okay? And then she also had sued Snoop Dogg and some frivolous nonsense from 2013, a 10-year-old thing. It's just... So coming off of that story, you got to ask yourself, if there are people who want to, like, because the goal here is not to get his money. The goal here is to put him in jail. And if the goal is to put him in jail, the kind of people who would be behind a thing like that are very, very powerful, who have a lot of money and a lot of influence. And so theoretically, depending on who's driving this thing, there's a world where they've got this thing locked up. Where there are people who are going to say this or say that or whatever. They're going to make statements and they're not going to budge. If you got 3 girls to all tell the same story, you got problems, dude. True or not, you got problems. And I mean, listen, dude, here, let me tell you exactly what I think about this. I'll tell you exactly what I think about this case. It's exactly what I thought about the Conor McGregor bathroom case. Exactly. I think that the details of the case are probably true in terms of, did they invite them to come to Romania? Did they tell them that they were going to be their girl? I mean, listen, the after 2021 thing, who knows? But since I've heard them say that they got girls to come to Romania and be their girlfriends, and then they offered, and then they got them to do cam work or whatever, I've heard them say it. So yeah, I mean, why would I assume that that's not true when I've heard them say that that's what they did? But is that a crime? Is that a crime? It's being a prick, kind of, but is that a crime? I don't think so. And then it's like, yeah, did they put them in a house and have them do cam work? Yeah, they did. But there's a huge difference between locking them in one, taking away their passports, not letting them leave, and asking them and selling them on doing it, telling them they're going to make a bunch of money, and then the girls willingly agree to it, and then the girls do the work or whatever. Like, that's not a crime. That's not a crime at all. So I think that, and then again, one of them is charged with raping one girl twice. It's like, yeah, I'm sure that one guy probably had sex with that one twice, right? Do I think that it was no, I doubt that it was anything violent at all. I'm sure that they just had sex with her, listen, what do I know? I don't know. My hypothesis is that kind of like you could take facts and you say, yeah, that happened, but it's being totally misrepresented here, and then paint it as something that it's not. That's my hypothesis on all of this, But listen, dude. If you think that this just is like some kind of coincidence, they just landed on these guys somehow, we just decided to open this investigation into the Tate brothers, and there's no one who asked us to look into this. There's no powerful entity that asked the prosecutor to do that. You're out of your mind. Okay? You're out of your mind. Like the Joe Biden thing with the Burisma thing, and if you don't know about that story, again, I'm not even going to get into the bribery stuff or any of that. None of it. Okay? If you know, you already know. I'm not going to be educating you on anything, because if you don't already know, that means you're willfully not looking at it. But I could just tell you this. All you have to do is go look up a video of Joe Biden talking about Burisma and the Ukrainian government, and he overtly says on camera that he told the president of Ukraine to fire a prosecutor, or else he was going to withhold $1 billion in aid that the United States was giving to Ukraine, and they fired the prosecutor. This is out of Joe Biden told this story to a crowd. Okay? Now, the reason I bring that up is because that is a prosecutor in Ukraine, exactly the kind of person who could initiate an investigation into a private citizen in Ukraine, right? And in Romania, they rely on foreign money and aid, etc. And there are groups that control our government, and if you think that's not true, then you completely do not understand the world that you live in. They control aid and they control the government in our government. They control our government. And so if they want to initiate an investigation, prosecution of someone in Romania, all they have to do is ask. All they have to do is ask. It's as simple as that. If you think there's like some high level amount of work that would need to go into this, there isn't. Hey, where do those guys live? Take 2 seconds for a government agency to know exactly where the Tates live. What jurisdiction is that? Okay. Well, what Romanian investigative body would be the best to take them on? Okay, cool. Who do we have over there? Beep, boop, boom, done. That it would take literally, it would take an hour of work to initiate everything that he is going through. An hour of work to people who would want to make that happen. And if you think that's hyperbole, or if you think like, oh man, no, it's not. That is how the world actually works. Okay. Now it's possible, oh, well, that one we don't, we don't own that, we don't own the people in that. Well, we own the ones in this one. So anyway, neither here nor there. So, look, dude. Like I said at the beginning, I'm not like some Andrew Tate fanboy. When he is like sitting and just like talking as himself, I really enjoy listening to him. When he does the stuff where like, the BBC tried to come here and I destroyed them because I'm the greatest ever. I'm like, all right, guy, like I know what he's doing because I used to do that on my own channel. It's actually ironic, dude, because I used to do that on my own channel intentionally because I knew it would rile people up. And that was when, the channel was smaller. I was trying to rile people up because they would have an emotional reaction to it. The worst thing that you could do when you're building a channel is have people watch your stuff and have no reaction to it. You would much prefer to have people watch something and it aggravate them, where they're like, what? Because then they'll come back and they'll want to find you saying something that's wrong. And when you're just yourself most of the time. And then so they're like, oh shit, I kind of like this guy. It's like a strategy that you do. I used to do that all the time. So it's funny that I find him super annoying when he does that, but I'm not convinced. I mean, maybe he's doing it strategically. I don't know. It was easy for me to destroy them because I'm the greatest ever with my wit and my charm. It's like, all right. The funny thing is because it's true. Like he's saying that it's kind of stupid and obnoxious, but like he's not inaccurate. He is phenomenal in interviews. People try to trip him up. He's exceptional at not getting tripped up and having very, very well structured answers that really limit an organization's ability to make him look in a way that they would want to if they were doing a hit piece. He understands not giving them. He understands how things can be taken out of context. And so the things that he will say, they don't give them any wiggle room, where they would have to be so utterly misleading, or dishonest to take what he said and make it look bad, which they do anyway, But then he can expose them, right? Then he can put out the real video and just expose that they are completely uncredible. And that's what that's why he's such a threat to them, is he's another one of these people that is exposing how this all actually works, Now, I am of the opinion, personally, that the people that he is exposed, like the kind of mechanisms that he's exposing, these institutional, dishonest mechanisms, have done much more on their own to expose themselves than people like Andrew Tate have done, Like, bottom line, you guys did it. Andrew Tate didn't do it. He might talk about it, but you know what? Actually, I'm not a good person to ask about this because I am extraordinarily emotionally intelligent. Don't say you sound like Andrew Tate. It's just a fact, But people like me and Rogan and Candace Owens and Andrew Tate, and there are plenty of people on the left. Jimmy Dore, right? Jimmy Dore's not right wing. The politics is not a part of this conversation. Jimmy Dore sniffs bullshit. I sniff bullshit. Joe Rogan sniffs bullshit. Andrew Tate sniffs bullshit. Candace Owens sniffs bullshit. I'm just trying to think of like a large group of people who are all kind of share views that are not politically aligned, because it's not a political thing, And because I can just see this stuff, I actually don't really know what kind of impact a person like Andrew Tate would have on the populace exposing this stuff. I could just say, to me, it's just absolutely ridiculously obvious. And I'll give you a perfect example of all of that. And that's how this connects to Joe Rogan, RFK, and Dr. Peter Hotez. So Dr. Peter Hotez is a doctor who specializes in, certain types of medications that were mandated across the world during the pandemic. And RFK has spent a lot of his career researching and exposing, what's the right way to put this? Things that are very inconvenient for people whose career is built around promoting those products, right? So studies and facts, historical facts, and things about people who are in positions of power, things, very specific events that have happened that have led to bad outcomes that are then covered up by large entities. That's what an RFK is, an environmental attorney who has spent his entire life or his entire career exposing large entities for cover-ups in which the population was affected negatively by damage to the environment, etc. Or, in this case, damaged by certain types of medications. And he went on Joe Rogan. He talked for 3 straight hours. Every single time that he made a claim about any of those medicines or treatments, he cited multiple studies. He cited the year. He cited the findings. He cited exactly what the findings were, what year it was done, who did it, why it was either credible or not credible, all across the board. 3 hours of talking about that. And I'm not a scientist. I can't validate whether or not what he's saying is accurate. What I could tell you is that what I'm good at is looking at a person and then thinking back through what's your incentive to lie, or like what's your incentive to either tell the truth or lie. Okay? Because then Dr. Peter Hotez, who's someone who's on the exact opposite side of this, without getting into the weeds of exactly what I'm talking about, he is a Bill Gates guy. Bill Gates has given an enormous amount of money to this guy in terms, here's an endowment of, I believe it's like $80 million for him to develop new whatever. This guy, Dr. Peter Hotez, actually invented his own role as a public face and advocate for the rollout of what ended up being a widely adopted and widely mandated treatment between 2020 and 2023. He was a guy who was out, being the face of this particular treatment across the board for kids, for everybody, regardless of what, regardless of basically anything, any other factors. And Joe Rogan and RFK talked about him specifically in their episode, and then that guy, Dr. Peter Hotez, tweeted out something about them sharing misinformation, how Spotify is not doing a good job of shoring up misinformation. And so Rogan was like, and what RFK has always said is, he's like, tell me where I got something wrong. Just tell me where I got something wrong. The guy, he wrote an entire book, okay, called The Real Anthony Fauci. I challenge anyone to read that book. If you think you're on the side of Dr. Peter Hotez and Bill Gates and those guys, I challenge you to read that book, and then keep in mind that not one person has disputed a fact from that book. No one. Not one person has publicly disputed anything that's in that book, because they would have sued him. They would have disputed it publicly. They won't dispute it publicly, because then they would bring attention to it, and then they would get, it's all true. You can't say things like what's in this book without getting sued if it's not true. It's all true. So read that book or listen to the book on tape, and then see if your alignment changes. Because if you think you're on those guys' side, you won't be afterwards. And like I said, this isn't a political thing. This is a smart person thing. If you haven't read the book and you're having some kind of emotional reaction to this, well, guess what? I've read the book. And you haven't. So you're getting mad about a thing that you don't even know what we're talking about. Read the book. And so, what, when I say that RFK comes off credible, that is an understatement. He cites facts and data in every single thing that he says. So when I hear people come back with fortune cookie nonsense, you shouldn't give a platform to a person who spread falsehoods and misinformation. And you're like, what specifically? He talked for 3 hours. Specifically, what? Like what? They won't cite a single example. They'll never get specific, because in every case, in every single case, it's not misinformation. It's not false. It's not. The one thing I keep hearing, I can't get into the details on this because I can't talk about this topic, but the one thing that I keep hearing them bring up is this thing that RFK specifically talked about on the road. It's like, they're like, oh no, well, he's implying that this and people are getting scared. And they actually, it's like, he said that himself on there. So Dr. Peter Hotez said, Spotify should be suppressing Joe Rogan, blah, 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 blah. And so Rogan on Twitter was like, will you come on my show and debate RFK about this topic? And it started an absolute uproar. Right? Where like lots of people are coming and they're like, yeah, Dr. Peter Hotez, why won't you come on and defend? And Joe Rogan is not backing down. He is bringing a sledgehammer at Dr. Hotez. He's just like, because Hotez is like, I'm not going to platform a conspiracy theorist and blah, blah, blah. And so if you haven't been looking at that, go look at that on Twitter. And here's my point. Dr. Peter Hotez in 2020, I can't talk about this, made specific statements that are indefensible now. Like, you know what I mean? It's like if you're a person and you say, listen to me, I am an expert. All right. I can always tell you that this shirt is red, and this shirt's red, man. This is a red shirt. I have 20/20 vision. I can tell you what color my shirt is. This shirt is red. And then a year and a half later, you're wearing the same shirt. And it's like, listen, guys, I've always known the shirt's blue. All right. It's a blue shirt. No one knows shirts better than me. And the shirt's blue. And you're like, why are you doing this? And then you find out that someone gave you $80 million to convince the world that the shirt's blue, you know, and you're like, well, I understand why this person's opinions changed, but I feel like his credibility probably is not very strong anymore. This is a bad example because this is obviously a red shirt, but just imagine there's a little bit of ambiguity to my shirt. Like, the guy knows for sure he's the foremost expert, and this is the case. And then as soon as the financial structure changes, all of a sudden it's the exact opposite of that. Like, this wasn't something where there was any wiggle room. What you said over there, you said authorizations like that are never safe. You said never. You said we would never do that. They're never safe. And then 1 year later, you're saying that this type of authorization is now totally safe. And, you know, it's like, so just think of just that one example, or another example where he said that this type of medicine has been shown to actually do the inverse. Every time we've ever tried to study medicine for this kind of virus, it ends up making people more sick. You know, it's this really weird, inverse reaction that we don't really understand verbatim. Fast forward. This is the only answer. This medicine is the only answer, and everyone needs to get it. Your 5-year-old needs to get it. Everyone needs to get it. You're like, and I'm not saying that I know which version of that is true, because I don't. I'm not a scientist. What I'm saying is that they can't both be true, you know? And if the financial incentive has changed between statement A and statement B, well, guess what? Guess what? I think you're going to have a pretty tough time on Rogan's show with RFK, dude. You know, when they go, hey, man, so remember when you said that? Remember that? Here, hey, we have a video of it. You want to see it? Here's you saying that. And then here's you saying that. Like, let me ask you a question. Did you receive an $80 million endowment? By the way, I don't know exactly what the number was. I heard that it was $80 million on Jimmy Dore's show, but in case I'm wrong, you know, did you receive an $80 million endowment to develop medicines like this in, you know, whatever year in between those two statements? I'm not going to talk about endowments. No, you're not. I mean, it's documented. You did, right? So here's this video, number one, where you're saying this. Here's fact number two, where you received this endowment. And then all of a sudden, here's you saying the exact opposite of what you said over there, but supports the incentive structure, which was put in place by this $80 million. Can you explain that? What changed? You know, was it the 80 million that changed your mind or something else? You know? And so a person like that is part of the establishment, the machine that is going to tell you things because they have an incentive to tell you a thing that is not necessarily in your best interest. It is in the best interest of the financial interest of the party that is this enormous thing. That's the matrix, okay? Hotez, part of the matrix. Okay, if he committed a crime, you think he's going to jail? No, they'll protect him, of course, because he's useful. RFK is the most dangerous person to them they've ever faced. If you don't understand that, I cannot stress this enough. RFK is the most dangerous person to the establishment that there has been at least in my lifetime. Because when it comes to the last guy, the one that they really don't like, that they just charged with the documents thing, I don't even want to say his name on here. That guy is amazing at galvanizing the population, but he doesn't understand how to actually hold these people accountable. Why would he? I'm not calling him stupid. That's not what his world was. He's a billionaire real estate developer who did television and is incredible at campaigning. He does not know how the government, he doesn't know how this all works when it comes to holding people accountable. If someone said, hey, how are you going to dismantle this government organization that has been proven at this point to be stone corrupt top to bottom? How are you going to dismantle it? Trump will give you that guy will give you some kind of answer that kind of dances around it and sounds whatever. Okay, RFK knows exactly how he'll dismantle it. He knows exactly which people to pull out. He knows exactly who to indict. He knows exactly who to sue. He knows exactly how the system works. He knows how to dismantle all of these things, how they've controlled everything from now. He is the guy that knows how to hold people accountable and how to dismantle their vice grip on the regulatory industry. So they will do anything to discredit him. Now, he doesn't have any kind of stuff in his history that they could charge him with a crime for. Nothing. Which is scary for his health. And everybody knows it. Andrew Tate, they'll probably just throw in jail. RFK is 100 times more dangerous than Andrew Tate to them. 100 times more dangerous. And if you think that's not correct, then you don't understand. And if you think, I think that most people think that if the guy who was the president before Biden got to be president again, that would be the biggest threat to these guys. Not even close. RFK is by far the biggest threat to them. And believe me, they know it. And the other thing is that the new media is the internet, is podcasts, because people can speak in long form. You can hear their opinions, long, drawn out opinions, long conversations. Okay. The other thing about him that I really like is that when people ask a question to any candidate, right, it can be something that, there's no human on earth that's an expert on everything. Nothing. They will always have some kind of answer for you. They'll give you just some kind of canned fortune cookie answer. RFK will just tell you, he's like, I'm not an expert on that. I'm going to have to research that before I give you a solid answer. That's what people are starving for. That's why podcasts and shows like this even. If I was doing this all the time, will always be way more popular than mainstream media, because mainstream media is fortune cookie thinking. People are too smart for it. You are all too smart for it. Whether you agree with me or disagree, you're too smart for that stuff anymore. People are not easily fooled anymore because of new media, where people can get full thoughts out, nuanced thinking. They can disagree and they can be convinced the other way if they're willing to listen to someone. The mainstream media is genuine brainwashing. It really is. It's not like a catchphrase. It's not hyperbole. It is exactly what it is. And there's no reason that you would even recognize it, because it seems like you're just watching something and you're getting facts. That's not what it is. They are literally brainwashing you. They're presenting facts in a very specific way. And if you think about it, all of the opinions that they feed you are this thin. This person bad, this person corrupt, this person dangerous, going to lead to blah, blah, blah. And if you really peek under the hood, you're all, why? Specifically, why? Well, he said blah, blah, blah. Okay, he said blah, blah, blah. That's this thing. Look, you know what I mean? Like, he said this about this. Okay. So again, you said a thing, you made a statement about a person, you cited a 2-sentence thing, and that's it, right? Because they know people are dumb. They will take that information in and go, yeah, he's the one who said that. Okay, if you watched that person say the actual thing they said, it usually comes in the form of like an opinion among a paragraph of other information. And almost always you'll see that was taken out of context and misrepresented and used to brainwash you. Matter of fact, always that's the case, whether it's positive or negative about whoever. Always. It's brainwashing. This is where you come to get nuanced thinking. No one's brainwashing you here, because they can't. They can't get brainwashed by Rogan's show. You can have your opinion changed. You can have an opinion solidified, but that's because you were able to listen to an opinion that resonated with you. Not because they just, this person bad, misinformation. They said this, blah, 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 blah. Like, it's not working anymore. Anyway, that's enough. Love you guys. I miss having Jesse on everything. Subscribe to the channel. Check out that nootropic down there. And that's what I got.